So, continuing on speaking about the impact and the AI power, which will impact the labor market, surely enough will impact it, and different visions about this impact. Now it's time for this question: what will AI economics promote a free world? And Pedro Faustino will now speak to us about the subject. Good morning.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning. APDC President Chairman Congress this year. APDC is 40 years old this year. 40 years shows quite a lot of change. I haven't been here for the last 40 years. In spite of it, I've been here for the last 4 years. In the last years, I was able to share with you some macroeconomic variables that impact our lives. 2 years ago, we discussed capitalism, and we saw how it's been the economic, social driver of these last decades after the Second World, accelerated driver, and with Paul Coyer's support, that capitalism doesn't only work in with automatic pilot, and we need some morals. Last year, we discussed with the help of Ricardo Reis and Pedro Cisa Vieira, discussed some economic variables closer to us, the tendency of interest rates, evolving inflation, international trade, public debt impact. And we also talked about our responsibility as businessmen, because it's creating wealth. And this is what we called economic activism. But this is my food for thought. This will be my food for thought. That is, in these talks, we've always admitted that the world would be a free market economy with democratic regimes. We've done what economists, they use that expression, which is a pocket tool. Ceteris paribus it means the constant rest. Everyone speaks about economic mathematical models, and then we can't simulate or compare. And then we admit that the world is that nothing changes. We're playing around with this sentence. I've gone through it, so I consider it to be a very interesting morale. And technically, it has to be as such. And it would be interesting. Indeed, we used to admit with this reasoning that the economy is developing, free market, in democratic regimes with strong institutions, rule of law. But unfortunately, you need more than admit. And people say, well, what can I do then? I'm going to deal with institutions in the free market. Yes, you can vote. Voting. We know what it means to vote, but unfortunately, we also know what it is not to vote. Not. And so I'm going to ask you to take a look at this graph. This is a Freedom House study. And on top in blue, we have the countries year after year. Democracy, freedom are strengthened. And in red, where values of freedom and democracy gave rise to authoritarianism. 2006, year after year, democracy is lower, where it's double the last years. And so, let me share with you.
I'd like to share with estudo que eu, por acaso, tive acesso.
Another study that I'm preparing for this Congress. This is a book published by the Foundation, and illustrated by Professor Costa Pinto, who is a politologist and from Stanford, Princeton, and studied in Ishte. You probably from television. And this book is called The Strikes of Dictatorships. I'm just going to read part of this book. He says, if I knew that between the old and the new, the dictatorships are more than a third of the world today, and even the autocracies have got more varied institutions, and democracies both have a lot in common. They have parliaments and elections, and sometimes they so savagely repress, but they integrate masses and elites, and can sometimes be popular for certain segments of society. And the problem of these things is that it's not white black. It's not black and white, because the similarities you can see here are the danger. And you look at the light in the end of the tunnel and see exactly how it is. And I forgot to say, naturally, in the APDC. I don't know Professor Antonio Costa Pinto, but I recommend the book. And so this year, in 2024, the year that APDC is celebrating 40 years, we have an unprecedented situation in the world. This year, 50% of the world is going to vote. That is, half of the world is going to vote. There are many elections in many countries, and this is all going to happen this year. Countries like Indonesia, Russia, we have European elections in Portugal, in the European Union. We've already had them in Portugal, and then we have the American elections for the President of the United States of America. And so the results of these elections, what we do know is that every year since 2006, the authoritarian regimes have increased in the world. We know that in China, there's a great tension with the United States because of Taiwan. Sometimes there's a very delicate situation. We don't know what's going to happen. And so China is also very worried about the acceleration of its economic development. We don't know whether it's going to be in the world. Russia continues to be imperialistic with the war in Europe, with the war in the Israel and the Middle East. We don't talk about that, I believe. And so we have to ask whether we I mean, his family looked as if everything was fine, and then everything around them wasn't. And so this is, I mean, it can seem strange and not very probable that we're going to do something, personally. But it can seem that things are further away from us in the macroeconomy, the more remote. But they're very good examples of companies that took important attitudes in relation to this topic. And I'd like to share with you an example that I knew very well. In 2017, the Vinci group, the Paul Actions belongs to, I was invited to put forward a proposal for the world of the border between Mexico and the United States. So this was a very good business opportunity, but the group decided to be faithful to its values and not put forward a proposal. And the values of humanity, we prefer not to touch the wall, was what the president of the group said in 2017. There are other good examples, and it's very important for us as business leaders to have an attitude of this type. I mean, we can go and look for plural knowledge. I mean, we can take decisions. And I bring you this subject because I believe this. We have the opportunity the responsibility to choose freedom. And some of you are thinking, "Babe, fine, I didn't choose the war, so it's okay." And so the people says the opposite of love is not hatred; it's indifference. we have to know. We have to know in our company, and we have to know in our homes, and we have to know how to educate our children, and we have to really know. And so, to help in this reflection, I'm going to invite, and so I would like to close now, and so I'll be back at +2, and I'm going to be with Dr. Francisco Fukuyama, and one of the world's most credible and influential voices in the defense of liberal democracy. And so I'll be back with you to +2, and and this is going to be a great congress and congratulations on your 40 years.